Man, Alex, it is getting hot in here.
I don't know where you live, but here it's very cold. Roger, you're wrong.
Man, I got to give a shout out to Rose Nixon all the time for the music, the selection, the audio, the pictures, everything. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Great Combos, where we always say whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. And today is going to be a great combo. I'm Roger Caesar, and that gentleman over there.
Hi, I'm Alexandre, and I'm currently checking to see if we're online on Facebook because it's possible that we're having a little technical difficulty. So I've just put in, just so you know, Roger, I put a note in Facebook. Anybody can join us on YouTube as well. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, you're not even hearing what I'm saying here. So that's why I put the message there. Roger, we started by saying you're completely wrong. And this is sometimes what we hear very often, eh?
Yes, it is. And this is the entire reason for this topic for today. The balance, is it really balance or is it a battle? One extreme versus the next? Which side are you on? How do we get to the middle? Can we get to the middle? And in fact, I will say this, Alex, it reminds me of your 2023 or 2022 World Championship of Public Speaking speech, where you said, "You're wrong."
Yeah, you're just wrong. Yeah, listen, Roger, I won't go into that speech. It's available on YouTube if you want to go see it. It's titled Lift Up.
Yes.
It's all about these disagreements that we have between each other. But today, especially, I'd like to talk about it in a more, not on a personal point of view or disagreement that we can have with people that are around us, but on a societal level.
Yeah.
Look here, Roger, whenever we speak, you're very understanding. That's why you are the understanding guy today. I gave myself the name radically moderate guy. What does that even mean, Roger?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out myself. But for me, it is about trying to understand. Listen, we're human. And at the end of the day, there are going to be times when our thought process says that we're right 100%, even though at the end of the day we may not be. But trying to understand the situations is far better than just sticking your head in the sand and pretending like your way is the only way.
Yeah. In reality, or in fact, what we notice is that the loudest voices, the ones that we hear, are those on the edges that are that you could say radical, or at least that have like no middle ground. But I believe this is even backed up by research that most people, like 80%, 4 out of 5 people, even or more, they're not on the edges. It's people like you and me. We're just happy to listen to both sides, or we don't have a strong opinion on every matter. But that's not popular online. Those are not the voices that get enhanced by the algorithms or by the media, right?
Mm-hmm. And then recently we have seen different situations in our world today that have those types of discussions happening, whether you are on the extreme right or left side of the situation. And the reality is that sometimes if you talk too much about one thing versus not talking too much about another, you either get blacklisted or you are put on a pedestal because you are on their side, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that really bothers me about, well, most political or societal debates is that when you're in the middle, you
Mhm.
are punished by both sides.
Yes.
So think about this.
Isn't that,
Let's
you can't win. You can't
no,
win.
you can't. Let's, so we started talking about this at the beginning of the season, you and I, Roger, when we saw the protests in Minneapolis, the ICE
Mhm.
agents that killed
Mhm.
two separate individuals.
Mhm.
And what we hear is, on one side, those agents are murderers. They had no reason to do that. And on the other side, we hear those two individuals had no right and were idiots for doing what they did, and the ICE agents were completely justified.
Mhm.
What happened to thinking about maybe a little bit of both here? So if I go to one side and I say, hey, you know what? Yeah, the ICE agents went probably too far, but maybe those individuals, maybe it was not a right idea to come armed to the protest, or maybe it wasn't a good idea to block the road.
Mhm.
And those people on that side will say, what? You're on the side of Trump. You're on the side of ICE agents. You're such a right-wing maniac. Then you go to the other side and say, hey, you know what? Maybe the officers should not have shot 10 times point blank on that man, or 3 times directly in the head of a car that was going away. His life wasn't really in danger. What? You're such a left-wing maniac. You're on the side of extremists. So when you're
Right.
in the middle, you're attacked by both sides. What's up?
Yeah, and it's very difficult because you don't know which way to go in that sense. It's very hard to understand, or better yet, I would say it becomes extremely difficult to side on either way because no matter what you do, you're going to be deemed wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why these types of battle for balances makes it very difficult. You said it yourself. We try to sit in the middle at times, and yes, there's that saying you're sitting on the fence. You're not making a definitive decision. Which side are you on?
Yeah, you have to decide. Are you with us or against us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so true. And a shout out to Arthur who's jumped in here. Thank you very much for being a part of the conversation. And anybody else, I know that we can't get everyone from Facebook on, so we don't get the comments yet. But wherever you are, thank you for being here. You know what we say. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Listen, Alex, we had our show just recently as well when we had Bad Bunny, and we talked about
Mm.
what happened with his performance. And when you went on different comments there as well from people who said, oh, this was absolutely ridiculous. How dare he come on a national stage of the Super Bowl and perform the entire thing in Spanish? And there's the other side that said, yes, but this is beautiful. It shows the diversity of who we all are, that we have different people in our country that makes up the United States. And why not have this? And if you're in the middle, you still have to be the one to decide, well, which side are you on?
Yeah.
Or else, you're wrong.
Yeah. Whereas when we talked about it, Roger, I think we both enjoyed the show for its artistic merits. We had our little, quizzical looks, or questioning about, well, maybe he went a little too far in some senses, but it was a great show. Also,
Yeah.
two things can be true at once, I think.
Yeah, but how do we, Alex, maybe the question for me to ask you is, which how do we decipher which way to go, or do we have to decipher which side to go
Do we have to decide on which side we want to go? No.
on? Yeah.
Um, and the debates are endless. I mean, should I even mention what's going on right now in Iran? Two
Right.
extremes battling it out.
Yeah.
It's either yes, it's a great thing, and everything that's going on is perfectly done, or on the other side, it's absolutely wrong and it should not happen at all. Like, well, wait a
Mhm.
minute. Is it not at least partly? If you're on one side, can you at least recognize that the end of the current regime is a good thing? Is it done in the right way? I don't know, but maybe that's still a good thing. I think we have to reclaim that
Right.
that middle ground, because I think we're demonstrating that's where the real conversations can begin and can get to at least something interesting.
And that's where I'm going to, because I think that that's where some of these situations that happen have to finally get to a middle ground. Look, on a personal level, when we have arguments or we have lively discussions, even you and I, if we have our talks and you have one view and I have another view, behind the scenes, what people don't see is that there are plenty of times when you and I don't get along in terms of where we sit on which side of the fence. But the beauty is that you and I can sit down and have those conversations. And the question I ask myself is, if you could do it here, why can't we start doing it on the next levels? Having
Right.
those conversations, dealing with things in the proper way, and not always feeling like we have to be extreme. And then we have certain groups where if you're not on their side, even though it's not who you are as a human being, you have your beliefs. We're told every day, hey, listen, you have your beliefs, you are entitled to them, you are entitled to your opinions, you are entitled to the way you grew up. And yet, if we don't agree with this group or we don't agree with that group, then we are looked at as wrong. Why?
Yeah.
Why can't there be that middle ground that says you're fine to be who you want to be? It doesn't mean I have to be that way. It just means you're where you are, I'm where I am, and we can both be in the same place at the same time and coexist. I don't have to jump to your side just so that I can be accepted.
Ah, yeah. Roger, we know the expression, the silent majority.
Yes.
Um, I think the silent majority should speak up more, and I hope myself included. But there's why does the majority stay silent? There is research. Let me get this on screen. Actually, there's research. It's from the 70s. It's called the spiral of silence. This is
Yeah.
fascinating.
Explain this. Mm-hmm.
So the spiral of silence. This was um, found or developed by a German political scientist called
Mm-hmm.
Neumann. Let me get an image on screen because that's going to help us picture it. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
What does this show us? The spiral of silence as a scientific theory. It shows that when people think their opinion is not popular, they stay quiet. Meanwhile, the loudest voices keep getting louder. So sometimes what seems like two extreme camps fighting may actually hide a much larger middle that just is not speaking.
Mm.
And this is when people who either are could lean one way or another will just they will probably either start speaking and be part of those loud voices, or if they're closer to the middle, they just just let the extremes battle it out. You see the
What about
unwillingness
those?
to express
What
a
about those?
minority opinion.
What about those, Alex, that end up joining that side because they are in fear?
That's probably worse than staying silent, I think, because it would mean that you would be lying to others and to yourself if you share an opinion that you don't really have. That's not a good thing, is it?
But to be a part of the majority,
Yeah, I want to be
right?
part of the in group. Well,
Yeah, there you go. The in group, the in
yeah,
crowd.
that's right. Either one side or another, so that when you let's imagine this scenario, Roger. You're radically moderate. You're really much into the center, but then you get tied into one side, and then you say, "Yeah, I agree with you guys, and I'm going to be on this side." But then, because you're generally moderate, you're still listening to the other side. So by the time that you determine, oh, maybe they're more right in this particular instance, it's probably even harder to go because now you've got your group here. You don't want to go on the other side. They are the enemy.
Um, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know because the way I myself was raised, or how I am in general, is you want to side on the side that your own self feels good about, right? Not where people expect you to go. And sometimes that ruffles feathers. I know my mom would always shout out to my mom, who would often say, "Speak your mind, and either they will respect you, or they're not worth being around you." Right?
Oh, your mom has wisdom. Say it again.
Either they will respect you, or they're not worth being around you. Right? So, in other words, it's not about doing what is popular. It's doing what feels right to you.
Hmm.
Right? And sometimes that's in on a personal level. Sometimes those conversations don't go according to plan for me because I'm stating what it is, how I feel. And then there are times when you get those who will respect it and say, you know what, I appreciate it. And even though we may not agree, we both can, as they say, agree to disagree,
Yep.
but it's in a respectful way. And that leads to what I have said many times, and that is, I have a theory called ADD, right? And it's for when we're having these types of extreme conversations, these conversations that don't always go according to plan, and they are way over to this side and that side. How do we get back to the middle? How do we come together? And ADD stands for acknowledge, right? Is the first one, and then you put it up on the screen, Alex. Right? It's acknowledge, diffuse, and decipher. So the first thing that you want to do is at least acknowledge the other
Mm.
party's side. I see what you're saying. I understand. I get it. Or from the other perspective, acknowledge that maybe you yourself wasn't seeing things the correct way, or from a different perspective.
Okay.
Once you acknowledge that, that alone breaks down the walls, as they say. It breaks down some of the walls that are there, that of tension.
Because you recognize the other person's point of view.
Correct, right? Now, it
People
doesn't mean
sometimes
that
need to be listened.
right, but it doesn't mean you agree. But it's at least at that point that tension kind of starts to break down when you acknowledge, right? And then it's to diffuse. Okay, so now we had this big disagreement or views. Diffusing it is to try and find a common ground between the two. So we're now talking about it, having the discussions, and diffusing some of the maybe the nuance, not the nuances, but the uh, situations that you did not know, or that person said that you didn't realize was what it was. How many times have you heard the saying, the broken telephone line, where all
Mhm.
of a sudden a situation goes way out of control because you did not have that first initial conversation. So diffusing, and then decipher which side you want to be on, right? Decipher what side you want to be on. After you've had that conversation, once you do that, then you can have a concrete opinion on which way you want to go. And if at that point it's still, hey, we agree to disagree, at least it's done in a respectful form. So add value, ADD, add value to those conversations. Acknowledge, diffuse, and then decipher.
Add value. Love it. And I could add this, Roger. If you do decide to be on one side for one particular issue, it doesn't mean you need to agree with the people who are generally on that side for every other issue. You can
No.
determine which
Yes.
side you're on for each issue, or not choose a side. That is also not only fine, but probably very logical and probably makes more sense for most people to not pick a side. And by the way, if you listen to someone or you read someone's opinion, it doesn't mean that you are endorsing it. it's it shows curiosity, understanding, as you said. So
That's it.
yeah. So if I start listening to someone who's, because this would happen on the algorithms. If I start listening to an opinion that is contrary to my own, or to the more, or to contrary to the opinion of that I quote should have, it doesn't mean I agree with it. I just want to understand, and maybe that helps
Hmm.
me um, make my arguments better for the opposing view.
Right, right. Well, Alex, I mean, what did you gain out of this though? At the end of it all, what would you say is the main point here that you could take away from this conversation? Now, share mine.
Well, I'm still torn about the all the concept of, or the idea that when we share our opinion, even if it's totally moderate and middle ground, we are attacked by both sides.
Yeah.
But that's probably to be expected. So what does that mean? It means that if we want, Roger, if we want the middle ground to take more space, if we want the silent majority to speak up, we might need to show the example and start speaking up and sharing extremely moderate views on all sorts of topics. So we could start. We could do something. We can start on social media. We can go to a, a random post that appears on our feed, and where we see these debates, and no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, and maybe we can go there and and reply to some of those comments on both sides. Let's do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll find the next hot topic. I'll see if I can respond to one person who's on one side, and in the same thread to another person on the other side with a moderate view, saying, "Hey, have you thought about it this way? Hey, have you thought about it this way?" And yeah, I'll get blowback. I know it. I know it. But I hope that you'll join me in that mission, Roger.
Well, here's the thing. I said it myself that I think that that's the way in which great conversations begin. And it's the tagline that we've had here. Whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. You have to have that. You must decide which way to go, but at the same time, have an open mind to both sides. Now, you may not agree with it, but at least hear it. And if we had time, I remember, and the only thing is I cannot remember the names. And it's a famous story and situation that happened where a Ku Klux Klan member and a black man sat down and had a conversation with each other to learn more about each other's point of views with regards to the acts that were happening. They ended up, and I don't remember his name, please forgive me, but the story is that they ended up actually becoming friends
Mm.
after, because they came to a common ground within it. And if somebody knows the name of the person I'm talking about, please put it in the chat as well. But it is a very famous story. He goes around, he's done TEDx talks about it and everything. But it just goes to show you it can happen. Two extremes can come together when done properly in having a conversation and add value to that conversation.
Roger, as always, thank you for adding value to my life and to our great convos.
And you as well, my friend. And as we always say, even you have brought value to us. But whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.